Part 1. The weakness of the chase. When you chase, you tell the world you don't have enough. You broadcast scarcity, and scarcity kills power. The one who pursues first always communicates dependency. Machiavelli wrote that power flows toward those who need nothing, and in human dynamics, this truth remains absolute. The modern man is conditioned to chase approval, affection, and validation. He texts first, waits for replies, interprets silence as rejection. But every time you move from hunger instead of command, you reinforce your own insignificance. To chase is to announce that you believe the other person has something you lack. The person who's being chased begins to view you not as a prize, but as a resource, a giver of attention, energy, and ego. Machiavelli would tell you this. Never let others see that they control your peace. Because once they know that, they can take it from you at will. True strength lies in restraint, the power to want but not need. Every great manipulator, strategist, or seducer throughout history understood this subtlety. Desire controlled is more magnetic than desire expressed. If you pull back and stop chasing, most people assume it's a tactic. But if you do it genuinely, if you actually become content within your solitude, something changes in your energy. You move differently. You speak differently. You no longer orbit others. They begin to orbit you. You become a quiet gravitational force that draws attention without noise. Power begins the moment you stop trying to prove your worth and start embodying it. Machiavelli said that reputation is a shadow of real power, and the man who protects his mystery always commands curiosity. When you chase, you give away your mystery. When you stop, you create uncertainty. And uncertainty is the seed of obsession. Part 2. The law of absence. Absence creates presence. The less they see you, the more they think about you. The less they hear from you, the more they wonder what you're doing. Machiavelli understood this principle centuries before modern psychology proved it. Scarcity enhances value. When you make yourself too available, your presence loses its weight. It's human nature to undervalue what's abundant. People crave what's just out of reach, and they respect what remains slightly unpredictable. That's why kings never walked among commoners. They maintained distance, not out of arrogance, but to preserve perception. Power dies in overexposure. In modern terms, this means mastering your digital presence. Stop constantly updating, checking, and responding. Every message sent out of impatience weakens your frame. People should feel your absence as tension, not relief. When you retreat strategically, you create a vacuum that draws attention back toward you. They start filling the silence with thoughts of you. And that's where real psychological control begins. Machiavelli wrote, "Men are governed more by the eye than by the hand. What they see, or can't see, defines their reality. Your silence becomes a story they tell themselves. They start projecting their Part 3. Emotional control, the weapon they don't expect. The man who cannot control his emotions cannot control perception. And in the world of attraction, perception is reality. You've probably heard that confidence is attractive. But confidence isn't loud or reactive. It's the calm that follows chaos. Real confidence is silent precision. It's when the world tries to provoke you, and you simply observe. When someone tests you, when they pull away, flirt with others, or criticize you, the average man scrambles to fix it. He defends himself, explains, apologizes. But that only proves he can be emotionally led. Machiavelli warned that the one who reveals his heart too easily gives his enemies the map to destroy him. And in modern relationships, emotional exposure often becomes emotional leverage. People test to see if they can control you. They want to know if your peace is self-contained or dependent on their approval. When you respond calmly to manipulation, you show that you operate on your own timeline. You don't bend to emotional storms, you weather them. That composure makes people uneasy because it reminds them that their tricks don't work on you. It exposes their lack of control. Psychologically, this is called intermittent reinforcement reversal. Instead of being the one craving validation, you become the one who gives or withholds it at will. It's the foundation of attraction. When you stop being predictable, the brain can't categorize you. You become an enigma, and humans are wired to chase uncertainty over comfort. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must appear merciful and faithful, but act strategically. The same applies here. Emotional restraint doesn't mean you're cold. It means you're calculating. You use your feelings as tools, not weapons against yourself. When you master emotional control, you invert power. You go from being the one who reacts to being the one who dictates the pace of every interaction. Every pause, every silence, every slight glance becomes a move in your favor. You're no longer an open book. You're a locked manuscript everyone wants to read. The truth is, most people crave intensity but can't handle it. When they meet someone who doesn't flinch, who looks through chaos and remains unmoved, they start to idolize that strength. It feels dangerous. It feels unshakable. That's the kind of energy that breeds obsession, not passion, but control. The greatest seducers in history were never the loudest, they were the calmest. Their stillness pulled others in. Your control becomes the mirror in which others confront their own lack of it. And when they feel that imbalance, they chase you. Not because they want you, but because they want to feel what you feel. That's how true power operates, silently, invisibly, from the inside out. Part 4. Redirecting energy, from obsession to power. Every ounce of energy you waste chasing someone could have been spent building yourself into someone they can't stop chasing. Machiavelli said that men must learn how not to be good when the situation demands it. In this context, that means withdrawing your energy from the emotional battlefield, not out of defeat, but out of strategy. The greatest form of control is redirection. When you stop chasing people, you suddenly reclaim massive amounts of attention and emotional focus. That's raw power. But most men, instead of using that energy productively, let it turn into bitterness or distraction. They stalk, overthink, and spiral. The Machiavellian man does something different. He channels that energy into building value, reputation, skill, presence, and mystery. People don't become obsessed with men who chase them. They become obsessed with men who are doing something they can't ignore. Every hour spent waiting for a text could have been spent sharpening your image, your ambition, or your self-mastery. The more you grow in silence, the louder your absence becomes. Machiavelli believed that fortune favors those who create momentum. He compared fortune to a river, one that must be directed, not fought. The same is true for human desire. When you redirect your pursuit toward excellence, the energy you once gave away begins to circle back. The world senses it. People notice it subconsciously. Your confidence begins to radiate from self-containment rather than external validation. And here's the paradox. When you stop chasing and start building, the ones who once ignored you begin to return. Not because you begged for attention, but because your silence forced them to wonder what changed. Your energy shifts from neediness to authority, from pursuit to purpose. You stop being someone waiting for approval and become someone others seek approval from. Redirection is not suppression, it's transformation. Every temptation to chase is an invitation to invest that energy elsewhere. The more disciplined you become, the more powerful your aura grows. Your focus is currency. Spend it carelessly, and you become poor in spirit. Invest it in your mind, your body, your ambitions, and you become magnetically wealthy. This is what Machiavelli meant when he wrote that men must learn to appear dependent while secretly building independence. You don't announce your transformation. You let the results speak for you. You become a ghost that haunts their mind, not a beggar that knocks at their door. When your purpose becomes more seductive than your presence, obsession becomes inevitable. They'll chase the version of you they can't reach. The one who mastered restraint, transmuted emotion into power, and disappeared just long enough to become unforgettable. Part 5. Becoming the prize, the magnetic shift. Obsession is never created by chasing. Obsession is cultivated by becoming the prize, a man whose presence feels rare, essential, and dangerous to ignore. Machiavelli wrote that perception is reality, and nowhere is that more true than in human desire. The world doesn't respond to merit alone. It responds to perceived scarcity, mastery, and control. To become the prize, you must first detach. This doesn't mean you play games or pretend to be indifferent. It means you anchor your worth internally. Your self-respect becomes a fortress. When others sense your independence, that you are not reliant on their validation, they instinctively orient toward you. It is a gravitational pull that cannot be resisted. Think of desire as energy, fluid, reactive, and always searching for direction. When a man chases, he becomes a stream caught in the wind, pushed and pulled by someone else's whims. When a man becomes the prize, he transforms into the river itself. Powerful, steady, and unavoidable. His presence commands attention even without words. This is why silence, emotional control, and redirection are the foundations. They are the soil in which obsession grows. A man who chases erodes his value with every plea and explanation. A man who stands firm, invests in himself, and disappears strategically makes every interaction feel like a rare opportunity. Absence builds intrigue. Focus sharpens mystery. The less you give, the more others wonder, and the more they crave. Machiavelli understood that men and women alike are drawn to what they cannot immediately control. Desire thrives on challenge, tension, and unpredictability. By embodying these qualities, you shift from being a participant in someone else's emotional game to becoming the game itself. You no longer need to ask for attention. It arrives, compelled by curiosity and the subconscious urge to fill the gap you left. At this stage, obsession is not manipulation. It is natural gravitational pull. Others cannot help but respond because you no longer exist as someone who reacts. You exist as someone who defines the rules. Your value becomes a standard, your presence a currency. Every glance, every word, every rare display of interest becomes magnified. They are drawn not by what you chase, but by what you choose to withhold.